Homeless man reveals incredible truths to billionaire's cry for help. A life-changing encounter. Jack stood high in his penthouse overlooking the glittering lights of Manhattan, but inside, he felt like he was plummeting. Behind the wealth and success, a bitter divorce and failing business dealings were nipping at his heels, tightening the noose of despair around his heart. Sure, he'd built a fortune from nothing growing up in that rundown tenement, fueled by a relentless work ethic, but right now, all he felt was the cold emptiness of his disillusioned dreams. As the sun dipped below the skyline, casting shadows deep into the city, Jack felt the weight of his perceived failures. A man once celebrated for his resilience now stood as a portrait of doubt and remorse. Have I lost my way, he thought, longing for a sense of direction that had eluded him in recent years. With a heavy sigh, he shoved his hands in his pockets and fled his luxury life, seeking solace in the bustling local park, a world far removed from boardrooms and power lunches. In the park, children laughed and couples strolled hand in hand, while he clutched his coffee, feeling like an imposter amidst such simplicity. And then he saw Sam, an older homeless man sitting on a bench, his eyes sparkling with a kind of wisdom that could only come from a life fully lived. Sam smiled at him, a quick grin that pulled Jack into conversation. Over shared sandwiches and steaming cups of coffee, Sam spoke of struggles and dreams dashed, weaving tales of hope and resilience that struck a chord deep within Jack. You know, Sam said with a glimmer of sincerity, it's easy to lose sight of what matters when you're caught up chasing dollars. I had dreams once too, traveling, starting a family, but life has a funny way of sending us in different directions. Jack felt his heart tighten. He was staring into the eyes of a man who had faced the stark realities he'd turned his back on in pursuit of success. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Sam sipped his coffee, the warmth of connection seeped into Jack's bones. They discussed economic inequality and human dignity, with each word peeling back layers of ignorance Jack hadn't admitted to. He began to truly felt the hollowness of his multi-million-dollar life. What was success when your heart was filled with nothing but greed? His newfound understanding of community and compassion startled him. Yet, when he decided to use his resources to uplift people like Sam, his billionaire friends turned against him. You're throwing it away, they shouted. Don't waste your fortune. They couldn't grasp what Sam had revealed. Jack stood at a crossroads: continue in the life of privilege he'd built or embrace his sense of purpose blooming within. That confrontation simmered in him as he prepared for a community event, a chance to propose an initiative for the homeless. Just then, his estranged daughter appeared, eyes blazing with resentment. Their words cut deep, echoing unspoken grievances. You've lost your way, Dad. Do you even remember who you were? Jack felt the walls closing in. He had to choose. Continue losing himself, or fight to redefine everything he thought he was. As he stepped onto that stage, the weight of judgment pressed hard against his chest. The world awaited the next chapter in his journey, filled with hope and the ever-present shadow of despair. Jack inhaled deeply, staring out at the audience flickering under the harsh lights. His heart raced as he gripped the edge of the podium, feeling as if he might crumble under the scrutiny of the crowd. These were not just strangers, to him, they represented a bit of his former self, wealthy, successful, but now, lost. The auditorium buzzed with murmurs that faded into silence as he finally spoke. Thank you all for being here. I know many of you expect big announcements or shiny projects that will dazzle your interests. His eyes flitted over the faces, and there was Sam, seated near the front. Their gazes locked for a heartbeat, and suddenly Jack felt the weight lift a little. This moment was bigger than any profit or loss. What I have to share is not wrapped in glamour or prestige. It's about humanity. Each word was a step further into exposing his heart. I've spent years chasing success, thinking wealth would fill the emptiness inside. But I've realized it only deepened my disconnection from the community, from people like Sam. He paused, glancing sideways at the crowd. He could see the confusion and disbelief on many faces. A bold decision like this was almost scandalous in his circle. Yet here he was. So, I'm proposing something quite different, a new initiative focused on providing support, skills, and respect to those without shelter. A chance for them to stand tall. We have the resources. We have the power together, we can change lives. There were scattered gasps among the wealthy crowd. Jack pressed on, feeling a surge of determination. Imagine a city where every person has a place to belong, where help isn't just a charitable handout, but a partnership for progress. We can't ignore the suffering any longer. His daughter's face wavered in the crowd, and for a moment, doubt clouded his resolve as he recalled their earlier sharp words. But he shoved it aside. This was not just for him or for her, it was for every person battling the struggle to survive on the streets. Just as Jack stepped down from the podium, a hand caught his shoulder. He turned to see his daughter, a mix of emotions flickering in her eyes: hurt, confusion, curiosity. "Dad, what are you doing?" Her voice raised a cacophony in his mind, yet it was laced with an undeniable urgency. "I'm trying to find my way back, sweetheart. I want to help those who need it, and maybe, just maybe, we can do it together." She took a step back, as though his words were a kiss of cold air. "Together? After everything?" "Yes. You may not see it now, but this is about more than me. It's about all of us." Jack felt the tension radiate from her. The air thickened between them like a wall, making it hard to breathe. He sensed the push and pull of their shared history, the battles of past neglect warring against this glimmer of hope for reconciliation. With the event still ringing in his ears, Jack took a step forward, his heart pounding. His journey had only begun, yet he couldn't shake the sensation that the real challenges lay just ahead, not only with the task he had laid before himself but within the fractured bond with his daughter. Questions clouded his mind: would he be able to repair the damage he had caused while helping others? Could they understand each other again? As the audience began to disperse and echoes of applause faded, Jack turned to leave, his heart heavy yet oddly hopeful. Outside, the chill of night embraced him. The path before was dark and uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, there was light, perhaps illuminating the right direction. But as he walked away, a familiar voice called out from behind. "Wait, Jack. There's something you need to know." Jack turned slowly, his heart still racing from the adrenaline of the speech. The voice belonged to Leon, a homeless man Jack had spoken to before, someone whose presence was etched in his memory. Leon stood a few paces away, his disheveled clothes a stark contrast to the polished world Jack had just attempted to leave behind. "Leon," Jack said, shaking his head in disbelief. "What are you doing here? You shouldn't be mixed up in this. Don't underestimate me, Jack." Leon's voice was steady, but there was fire behind it. "You don't get to pretend like you're the savior of the day without embracing the truth of where you came from. You think a speech is going to change anything?" The words hit Jack like a slap. "I'm trying to make a difference," Jack replied, defensiveness creeping into his tone. "To genuinely help people like you." "Help me?" Leon shook his head, his expression a mix of pity and challenge. "You don't know what help looks like. You think throwing money or resources at the problem will fix it. You have no idea what it's like to be in our shoes." Jack felt a well of frustration rising within him. He had just laid his heart bare in front of hundreds, yet this man was tossing it all back like a half-finished drink. "I'm trying to create a system that empowers people. No. What you need to do is open your eyes." Leon stepped closer, his eyes piercing, as if he could see right through Jack's carefully curated facade. "You can talk about systems, but the truth is much simpler. It's about real connection. You've spent so long climbing your ivory tower that you forgot how to touch the ground." The words tumbled around in Jack's mind, colliding with his efforts to reform, to repair not only his life but the lives of others. There was anger simmering, but it was mixed with something else, something he couldn't quite name. Was it guilt? Shame? Maybe it was the glimmer of recognition that, beneath all his grand plans, he still had much to learn. Look, Leon continued, his voice dropping to an earnest whisper. I've seen things you wouldn't believe. I could show you. But that requires more than goodwill. It requires showing up, being present. You're trying to fix a problem from afar. Jack let out a shaky breath, his heart beginning to pound once more. He looked at Leon, really looked at him. For years, he had wanted to make a difference, but he had done it in a vacuum, in shadows. Maybe Leon was right. Maybe it wasn't about the lavish initiatives but something deeply personal, an invitation to truly engage. Then what do I need to do? Jack asked, desperation creeping into his voice. How can I show up? Leon's eyes softened just a touch. Start with understanding. Life on the streets is brutal, and it can turn you into someone you don't recognize. But if you're sincere, if you really want to help, come with me. I'll take you to meet some folks. Jack's heart raced again, but now it echoed with something different. Hope. Fear. He couldn't tell just yet. The weight of this moment pressed down on him. Is this what it takes? Jack thought. To step into the trenches and face the reality? The idea sent waves of anxiety through him, but mixed with that was a flicker of determination. Okay, he said finally, his voice steady. Lead the way. As Leon turned to walk, Jack fell in step beside him. The night felt colder now, the unknown stretching out in front of them, full of shadows and possibility. But just as they were about to turn the corner, Jack's phone buzzed in his pocket. He hesitated, glancing down. The name on the screen made his heart drop, Claire, his daughter. Would she understand this new direction he was taking? Would she see him trying to change? Before he could think it through, he silenced the phone and clicked it off. He knew one thing for sure, there were lives to change, and that journey was just beginning. What's next? He wondered as they walked into the night, uncertainty settling around him like a thick fog. The alleyways felt different as Jack followed Leon. The gritty scent of the city wrapped around him like a heavy blanket, thick and suffocating. The sound of distant sirens and the low hum of street chatter blended into an unsettling symphony of urban life. He was stepping into a world that had been just an abstract concept before, but now it seemed achingly real. Leon moved with purpose, weaving through the streets like an old threadbare quilt, every corner stitched with stories and heartache. Jack noticed the murals on the walls, the scrawls of hope and despair, a stark reminder of the struggles hidden in plain sight. People don't understand, Leon said, glancing back at Jack. They think there's a divide between us and them, but it's all one big tapestry, just different threads. So where do we start? Jack asked, feeling the weight of the question settle heavily in the air between them. There's a group that meets under the bridge, Leon replied. They'll be there tonight. Some of them just need someone to listen. Jack felt a swell of anxiety. A wave of doubt washed over him. What could he possibly offer these people? But as Leon led the way, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a chance to help. It was a catalyst for his own change. They arrived at the bridge, where the darkness wrapped itself tightly around the gnarled structures, creating a hiding place for both the lost and the weary. The flickering light from nearby street lamps barely penetrated the depth of the gloom. But in the shadows, he spotted figures huddled together, sharing stories, sharing life. Jack's heart raced as they approached. His palms felt clammy against the cool night air. What would he say? Would they accept him, or would he just be the wealthy outsider trying to play savior? Leon paused before approaching. Just be yourself. No speeches, no bravado, he instructed, a subtle sense of urgency in his tone. Just listen. You'll learn more than you ever could from charts and meetings in your polished office. Jack nodded, the nerves humming beneath his skin. As they drew closer, he could hear laughter mingling with the occasional outburst of anger and sadness. The voices danced around him, each one a note in a haunting melody he had never paid attention to before. A man with wild hair and kind eyes noticed them first. "Leon! You brought a friend!" he exclaimed, a wide grin splitting his face. "What do we owe the honor?" "Just a guy trying to learn," Leon replied. "This is Jack." The man's expression shifted, curiosity flashing across his features. "You must be brave, Jack. Most folks don't bother with us. I'm just hoping to understand to help." "If you'll let me," Jack said, his voice steady but with an undercurrent of vulnerability. "Understanding is a good first step. Let us see how far you're willing to go." Jack inhaled deeply, the words settling into his bones. This was his path to connection and truth. He watched as Leon began to introduce him to others, the camaraderie and the warmth flooding the space even amidst hardships. As they shared stories, Jack found himself leaning in, listening intently. Each voice carried a weight, a history that painted a different shade of pain and hope. He felt the barriers he had built slowly start to crumble, revealing the raw humanity that connected them all. Suddenly, he felt a vibration in his pocket. His heart jolted. He knew it was Claire again. Was she calling to check on him? Did she sense that he was changing? Would he be able to explain this new passion? As he reached for his phone, he hesitated. Would being torn between his daughter's world and this new reality push him to the brink of losing them both? In that moment, Jack realized that choosing one path might mean losing sight of another. But could he find a way to weave both threads into something beautiful? What would happen if he took the plunge into this unfamiliar territory, one where he understood the true essence of connection? With the phone still in his hand, he stood at the crossroads of his own life, facing the unknown future caught between both worlds. What would his next step reveal? Jack stood frozen, phone in hand, caught between two lives that felt more separate than ever. The soft murmurs of conversation flowed around him, a lending of voices that swept him into their world. Every laugh, every sigh, painted a picture of struggles he had only skimmed the surface of before tonight. The warmth radiating from the group was tangible, a stark contrast to the cool metal of his phone. Leon noticed his hesitation. "It's okay," he said gently. "You're not just some outsider anymore. You're here. Listen to them." Taking a deep breath, Jack slid the phone back into his pocket. This was bigger than his fear, bigger than the worries about Claire. Stepping forward, he could feel the pull of their stories, each one inviting him in. Leon's words echoed in his mind. There was a truth waiting for him, but he had to be willing to dive deep. Leaning against a wall, Jack settled in, his heart pounding in rhythm with the laughter. The wild-haired man, who he learned was called Sam, was lost in a tale about life on the streets, the unexpected friendships that blossomed, the small victories against a backdrop of chaos. His voice was rich, full of emotion, and it drew Jack in like a moth to flame. And then, one night, Sam said, eyes sparkling, "I found a pair of shoes tossed on the sidewalk. I didn't care if they were my size or not. I was going to let someone's thrown-away gift go to waste. We can all find a little treasure if we just open our eyes." Laughter erupted. Jack found himself laughing too, the warmth of their camaraderie wrapping around him. In that moment, he understood that sharing in their stories meant more than just listening. It was about connecting. As the evening unfolded, each person shared tales that felt like a mix of fiction and reality. A woman named Tara spoke of her lost job and the spiral that led her to live under the bridge. Yet, she spoke of resilience, of fighting to keep her spirit alive, and Jack was mesmerized. She was a beacon of hope wrapped in uncertainty. "Take a seat," Tara said, gesturing to an empty spot beside her. "You seem like you want to be part of this." Flushed with unexpected warmth, Jack complied. The simple gesture felt monumental. There was no judgment here, just acceptance. "Why are you really here, Jack?" Another voice chimed in, pulling him from his reverie. A grizzled man, with a face carved by time and hardship, looked at him with piercing eyes. "What's your angle?" Jack swallowed hard. I want to help. But I'm not sure what that looks like yet. His honesty hung in the air, more fragile than he intended. The man nodded, as if Jack's vulnerability had unlocked something deeper. Sometimes just being here is enough. Sometimes people just want to be heard. That hit Jack like a freight train. He realized that helping didn't always mean fixing. It could simply mean being present, sharing the weight of burdens, and amplifying their voices. But just then, another buzz from his pocket interrupted the moment. This time, Jack didn't hesitate. He pulled out his phone, ready to silence it, but a glance at the screen stole the breath from his lungs. Claire's name flashed. "What's the matter?" Leon asked, watching him intently. Jack's heart raced, torn between two worlds, one calling him home with urgent pleas and the other tugging him deeper into understanding. The weight of his choice felt heavier than ever. His world with Claire, filled with love but often clouded by expectations, and this new realm, vibrant yet fraught with challenges. He made a choice. With resolve solidifying in his chest, Jack placed the phone face down in his lap, choosing this moment over the uncertainties swirling at home. It was time to step into the raw heart of connection and find the answers that felt just out of reach. As the circle continued, stories weaving into a tapestry of resilience and shared humanity, whispers of truth began to swirl around Jack. What new insights lay waiting? And when he finally reconnected with Claire, what would he say about the lessons he was learning? The questions sat heavy on his heart. But he sensed that this journey was only just beginning. What truths would emerge when he fully committed to embracing this new reality? Jack leaned closer to the group as Tara continued her story, her voice rising and falling like a melody weaving through the dimly lit room. The warmth of shared experiences enveloped him, melting away the chill that had settled in his bones. As he listened, he noticed the authenticity in their expressions, their joy, their pain. These were real people with real struggles, fighting through the chaos of life. "Sometimes, I almost forget what it feels like to have a home," Tara said softly, her gaze distant. "But then I remember that home can be more than just a place. It's the people around you, the stories you share." Jack's heart twisted. He had always thought of home as a physical space, but now he began to see its edges blur. "All right, let me tell you one," Sam said, snapping Jack back. "You're right, Tara. Home is about connection. I was once in the thick of it, couldn't find my way, and then there was this old man named Charlie." Wrapped with attention, Jack leaned in. Sam's eyes sparkled with a mixture of nostalgia and sorrow. Charlie was as grumpy as they come. Always shouting, always swearing. But one night, during a rainstorm, he didn't scare me away from under the awning. He shared a half-eaten sandwich, his way of telling me I wasn't alone. Laughter rippled through the group, creating a sense of belonging Jack had been craving. "Now, Charlie, he taught me two things. First, never underestimate the power of a sandwich. And second, we can all help each other survive this wild thing we're in, no matter how rough the edges." Sam laughed, and others joined in, their camaraderie sparkling like starlight. Jack felt an unfamiliar heaviness settle in his chest. It wasn't sadness, it was a pulsing awareness of connection. Everyone here had their own Charlie, their own stories of grit and grace. "What's yours, Jack?" another woman asked, her deep brown eyes meeting his. "What brought you here? What's a story that can pull you out of the darkness?" He hesitated. What could he say? His world felt so different, yet so similar. He could share the pressure of expectations, the quiet loneliness that sometimes crept into his relationship with Claire, but would it resonate here? "I wanted to help, but I think I've been the one needing help," he finally admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not sure I've ever really connected with anyone. Not like this." Their gaze tightened around him, an understanding lighting their faces. Jack could feel the current of their shared experiences surge around him. His vulnerability opened a door, and suddenly, the air felt charged with something transformative. "Then you're exactly where you need to be," Leon spoke up, his voice warm and steady. "This is how things change when we break the walls down. don't be afraid to share what's real for you. Jack exhaled slowly, the tightness in his chest loosening just a bit. Here, surrounded by open hearts, he was beginning to see shades of truth he hadn't noticed before. But then, his phone buzzed again, its vibrancy stark against the gentle backdrop of laughter and stories that he picked it up and saw Claire's name again, just as urgent, just as demanding. Maybe this was a sign. What were the odds? On one hand, Lauren's gentle push urged him to stay, to explore this world that felt raw and truthful. But Claire's name represented comfort, familiarity, responsibility. As the laughter continued to flow and stories intertwined, Jack's heart raced with indecision. He felt caught, not just between two worlds but two parts of himself. One part craved clarity, connection, and the strength found in shared stories. The other pulled him back to safety, to a life where expectations felt like a warm blanket, albeit a suffocating one. Caught between two pressing realities, Jack had a choice to make. Would he dive deeper into this vibrant community or answer the call of the life waiting at home? A question whispered in his mind like a gentle breeze: could he make room in his heart for both lives? And if not, which would he choose, as he stared at the phone, clinging to the swirling emotions? Around him, the choices ahead loomed larger than life. What would he do next, and what would it reveal about the man he was becoming? Jack's fingers hovered over the screen, the bright glare of the phone a stark contrast to the warm, inviting glow of the room. His thoughts tumbled over each other, the conflicting pulls of duty and desire swirling like autumn leaves caught in a gust of wind. "Hey, man, you good?" Leon's voice broke through his reverie, filled with genuine concern. Jack looked up, meeting Leon's steady gaze. It was a reminder that he wasn't just lost in his own turmoil, he was surrounded by people who cared. "Yeah, just thinking," Jack replied, wishing he could find the right words to express the raging storm inside him. Leon nodded knowingly and leaned back in his chair, continuing to listen to the stories that floated through the air like a comforting blanket. "Take your time," Tara added softly, her warmth wrapping around him. Her eyes sparkled with understanding, as if she too had once stood at the crossroads of decisions that felt insurmountable. The laughter faded momentarily, replaced by a heavy silence. Jack could feel the weight of their expectations, their faith in him resting just above his heart. Should he share his truth? Would they understand what he meant when he said he'd never truly connected with anyone? In a flash, a wave of relief washed over him. He realized that being vulnerable in front of these people might be the very thing he needed. "I guess," he began slowly, "I've spent so long trying to be what everyone expects me to be. I've been chasing the idea of success, of the perfect job, the perfect life. But now, when I look at my life, I realize it often feels like I'm running, but never really going anywhere." The group leaned in closer, their eyes fixed on him, hungry for honesty. "Claire, she's amazing, and I know she cares, but there's always this pressure to keep pushing forward. It's like I'm standing on this tightrope. I feel I can't be honest about what I'm feeling, about what I really want. Sometimes I think it's easier to just keep my head down than to admit that everything isn't perfect." A hush fell over the room. Jack could sense their shared breaths, a collective empathy. Tara smiled gently, reflecting a light that made Jack's words weighty yet hopeful. "Jack," she spoke softly, "sometimes admitting that things are hard is the first step to making them easier. You've got people here who are willing to listen." "I just don't want to disappoint anyone," he admitted, his voice trembling with the weight of his fear. A flicker of apprehension crossed Sam's face. "Hey, no one's perfect. We're all just trying to figure things out," Sam said, taking a deep breath. "The bravest thing you can do is let those around you know what's happening in your heart, even if it feels scary." Jack sighed, his insides churning with emotions he had kept bottled up for far too long. Could he allow himself to be honest? But just then, the phone buzzed again, shaking him from his thoughts. Claire's name glared at him, demanding attention. "Yeah, Jack started, but the words caught in his throat. The half-formed excuse that he would just check in before heading back home felt frivolous. "Everything okay?" Leon prompted. Jack looked from the phone to the expecting faces around him. A choice loomed ahead. Continue to cling to the safety of what he thought he should do, or surrender to the uncertainty and possibility of connection. What if he thought aloud, what if I just let go of all this pressure? What if I stepped away from what's safe for a moment? In that space, his heart pounded with a drive he hadn't felt in years. But as he contemplated the phone and the call for responsibility, he felt an unmistakable stir within him, a desire for authenticity that grew louder with each heartbeat. Would he choose to be embraced by the stories woven in this room, or return to the familiar pull of expectations waiting for him at home? The group held their breath, hanging on the edge of Jack's revelation. What would he decide, and how would it shape the path he was about to walk? The buzzing of the phone became a white noise, almost distant against the thick current of emotions swirling in Jack's gut. He caught Leon's eye. Leon's expression held a blend of encouragement and worry. Sam gently tapped his foot, urging Jack to make a choice. Jack took a breath. I need to take this, he finally said, his heart racing in his chest. The words felt like a surrender, a stepping into the unknown. That he swiped the screen, bringing Claire's familiar voice into the warm cocoon of his friends. Hey, I was just about to head home. Is everything all right? The chuckle that came back was light, but there was an undertone of something heavier, a shadow creeping into her normally bright demeanor. I was hoping you hadn't forgotten about dinner. I was thinking we could try that new Italian place. You know, the one you loved. It tugged at him, the sweetness of her suggestion mixed with the bitterness of knowing how far he had drifted from her. He could picture Claire, vibrant and full of life, waiting for him with eyes that searched for reassurance. In that moment, he couldn't help but feel the weight of his indecisiveness. I am actually with Leon and Tara right now, he revealed hesitantly. Can we reschedule? Silence filled the line, stretching longer than he anticipated. Oh. Sure, Claire replied, her voice sounding more distant now. Is everything okay? Jack opened his mouth, but the words didn't come. He could feel his friends watching him, the air thick with anticipation. Courage dripped down his spine. Would he let this moment slip away like the others? Claire, he said, the name heavy with both love and fear. I think I need to talk. Like, really talk. I'm feeling lost. There was no turning back. He had let the truth spill out, raw and unpolished. Another silence followed, but this one felt different. It felt like the opening of a door, one that had long been shut. Okay. I'm listening, she said softly, and he could hear the change in her tone. She was really listening. I've felt like I'm meeting the expectations, chasing this idea of success. But it's not me. I want to be honest with you. With myself. His voice quivered slightly, but he pressed on, emboldened by the warmth of the supportive gazes around him. I don't know how to say it, but I just want to figure this out together. Jack, Claire began, her voice a beacon of warmth. I want that too. It's been hard for both of us. In that moment, as he leaned against the armrest, Jack could sense it, the walls he had built around himself were beginning to crumble. He wasn't just reconnecting with Claire, he was rediscovering parts of himself he had hidden away for too long. I'm sorry, he said, pouring out a sincerity long overdue. I've been running from what I really want from us. Claire's sigh broke through the distance. I can't promise everything will be easy, but I'm here. Let us figure it out together. As relief washed over him, Jack felt the warmth of his friends surrounding him, proud witnesses to this pivotal moment. He glanced at them, their smiles encouraging him, lifting the heaviness. I'll see you soon, okay? Jack murmured, and they exchanged soft, hopeful words, paving the way for an uncharted path ahead. As he hung up, laughter bubbled back into the room, mixed with a sense of lightness. They leaned into conversation, but Jack's heart was still racing. He felt like he had stepped off the edge, ready to embrace what lay beneath the surface, yet just as he started to relax, an uneasy thought crept back in, gnawing at the edges of his excitement. How would Claire react when he revealed all the other pieces he kept tucked away? The fears about his job, his dreams. Would the truth still hold weight when truly unveiled? The question hung heavy. Jack took a deep breath, letting the warmth around him ground his resolve. The next step felt imminent, a reckoning on the horizon, but for now, he was here. This moment, this group, was enough. What deep-rooted fears still awaited discovery as he prepared to untangle his messy reality? Jack leaned back into the soft couch, the laughter of his friends swarming around him like a warm blanket. Yet, a chill seemed to settle in his bones as new worries came creeping back. Beneath the light banter and cheerful jokes, an unshakable weight rested on his heart. He couldn't shake the feeling that while he had made progress today with Claire, there were obstacles ahead that would challenge his resolve. Sam launched into a story, his hands animatedly gesturing to emphasize each point. And then, out of nowhere, the dog jumped right into the lake. Everyone erupted in laughter. Jack tried to join in, but his mind flickered back to the conversation he had just had with Claire. Although the door to honesty had cracked open, he knew he'd still have to push it wide open, much wider than he had during their call. Jack. Earth to Jack. Tara's voice broke through his reverie, pulling him back to the present. Yeah, I'm here, he chuckled, attempting to shake off his worries. You totally zoned out. We're talking about the craziest stuff, and you look like you just saw a ghost. Leon teased, punching him playfully in the arm. Just thinking, is it too late to change my dinner plans? He smiled faintly, hardly believing what he had just said. Sam cocked his head, raising an eyebrow. You should definitely reach out to Claire again. Why not be clear about where you stand? Yeah, but what if it makes things messier? Jack admitted, feeling the heat rise in his cheeks. The laughter had faded from his voice, and he could feel the room tense up a bit. What's messier than avoiding the truth? You'd be surprised how much clarity comes from honesty, Tara said, her eyes locking onto his. He nodded thoughtfully. Maybe they were right. But his anxiety bubbled up again, and another troubling thought surfaced. If he opened up to Claire about more than just their relationship, about his fears, his ambitions, would she still see him as strong? Would it break the fragile connection they were trying to rebuild? Determined to divert his swirling thoughts, he tried to focus on the joy around him. Laughter rang out again, and the group shifted topics, moving on to plans for a group trip next month. That idea brought a flicker of excitement, a sense of belonging that he had been yearning for. Yet, it felt like just another distraction from the internal storm. A sudden thought lightning bolted through him. What if this trip was more than just a getaway? What if it served as a turning point for him to confront everything he had been avoiding? Perhaps he could take both Claire and the group along on a journey of self-discovery. The laughter faded again as silence settled in when a couple of phone notifications buzzed on the table. Jack glanced down and felt his throat tighten. It was a text from Claire. Thinking about you. Can't wait to see you again. Just those few words sent adrenaline rushing through him. He felt an undertow of fear and excitement churning in his stomach. What would he say when they met? His friends exchanged pleased glances, clearly aware of the message that had him holding his breath. Seems like someone's got some good news. Leon grinned, nudging him. Yeah, a lot can change in a single moment, Tara added, her eyes twinkling. Jack smiled, but inside, he felt that familiar flutter of uncertainty. A deep-rooted fear gripped him again, reminding him of everything he still had to face. As he took a deep breath and opened the text to type a response, a new thought settled in. How many more chances would he get to embrace the truth if he kept holding back? Then, just before hitting send, a nagging instinct urged him to put down the phone. What if there was something waiting for him beyond just right words? He glanced at his friends, then back at the screen, wondering what the next message would be. The line to Claire had been opened, but how far could they truly dive into the waters below? In that moment, a swirling blend of hope and anxiety danced beneath his skin. Jack had no idea what would come next, but one thing was abundantly clear: he needed to be ready for whatever truth awaited him on the other side. Would he muster the courage to find out? Jack's heart raced as he stood amidst the laughter and stories shared under the bridge. With every anecdote told, he felt the barriers that had once surrounded him start to dissolve. This was more than a gathering, it was a revelation. The weight of his previous life, burdened by expectations and superficial success, began to lighten. And yet, Claire's name lingered in his mind, tugging at his conscience like a whisper he couldn't ignore. He glanced down at his phone, noticing the text from Claire still glowing on the screen. He yearned to respond but felt a rising tide of urgency to truly engage with the moment before him. Jack took a breath and turned his focus back to the circle around him. Suddenly, the thought of connecting deeply with his daughter didn't seem so daunting. "Listen," he said, breaking into the conversation. "I've spent too long running from my truth. I need to learn from your stories, but I also need to find a way to bring this back to Claire. I don't want to lose her again." A hush fell over the group, and in that stillness, he could feel their solidarity wrapping around him like a comforting embrace. Tara's eyes sparkled with warmth. "Sounds like you're ready to face it head-on. Don't just think of her as someone you need to fix, or a barrier. Include her in all of this. Let her see the real you." "Yeah," Sam added, "true connection starts with being real." Encouraged, Jack nodded. "You're right. I need to stop pretending everything's alright when it isn't. I've learned so much from all of you, and I think it's time I bring that honesty back home." Leon placed a friendly hand on Jack's shoulder. "That's the spirit, man. You're already on your way to changing lives, your own and others. It won't be easy, but nothing worth having ever is, right?" The group erupted with cheers, a mix of laughter and support that sent warmth spiraling through Jack's heart. "This is what I want," Jack said, his voice steady. "To forge real connections, reclaim my truth, and to face the consequences head-on, especially with Claire." As the evening evolved, Jack realized how vital vulnerability had become. Each story shared deepened his understanding of empathy, and each moment felt like a brushstroke painting a clearer picture of community. He felt larger than life yet grounded in humility. Hours passed. When the first twinkling stars began fiercely jutting through the night sky, Jack knew it was time to step back into the world he had almost forgotten. As he bid farewell to Leon, Tara, and Sam, they exchanged contact information and promises to regroup soon. "You're welcome among us any time," Tara said softly, and Jack felt joy seep into every corner of his heart. Slipping through the shadowy streets toward his penthouse, the city lit up in vibrant radiance before him. Jack held his phone tightly, anticipating the conversation that lay ahead. The once cold walls of his life no longer felt suffocating, they filled him with a sense of purpose he yearned to share with Claire. Once home, he paced anxiously, waiting for her. He looked around at the opulence, the suits, the shiny possessions, the empty echo of the place once rich with laughter. Finally, Claire arrived, her eyes shining with curiosity mixed with concern. "You seem different," she said, sensing the shift in him immediately. "I am different. And I want to share that with you, Claire. Can we talk?" She nodded slowly, and they both settled on the couch, confronting the vulnerability and truths waiting to spill forth. He found strength in shared laughter and heartfelt stories of the unexpected. "I've realized I've hidden behind this facade of success," Jack began, pulling Claire in with each carefully chosen word. "But the truth is, I've been lost. You mean everything to me, and I haven't known how to express that properly." Claire's expression softened. "I've felt that distance, Jack. It's been unsettling. I want to change that. I've discovered things about myself and how much I need real connections, not just with you but with the world," he urged, feeling lighter as he spoke the unconfined truth. Tears filled Claire's eyes. "It sounds like you're uncovering what you really want, not just for yourself, but for us." "Exactly. I'm ready to see it through." In that moment, their hearts began to reconnect, threading through shared vulnerabilities. It was careful and tentative, yet alive with the possibility of rebuilding. As they spoke late into the night, Jack felt hope surging, igniting fresh paths. It was a long road ahead, filled with unknowns but illuminated with the light of honesty and love, a journey he was willing to take with her by his side, alongside the community that had opened his eyes. Jack realized now, as he embraced the entirety of his messy, delightful life, that personal transformation was not just about gaining, it was about daring to give of oneself. And all of it began with one simple choice: to be vulnerable. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe now to catch the next exclusive stories and continue this journey with Jack and Claire. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support for heartfelt stories that matter. Comment below with your thoughts and feelings about Jack's transformation. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible journey of change and connection. Your support keeps these stories alive.